Everybody, I have a question for you all. In this city we love, do we let big corporations tell us what to do?
No!
Do we let the big oil companies or the big pharmaceutical companies tell us what to do?
No!
So are we going to let Uber and Lyft and all the other big companies tell us what to do? Here, it is about the power of the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And every one of you are such a powerful example of what it means when people get together and they organize and they fight for their rights. This victory is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, there's a lot of thanks to go around, and we're going to be hearing from Speaker Johnson on behalf of the City Council in just a moment. But I have to tell you, for me very personally, I know a lot of us here feel this today. This is a victory that has been a long time coming. And it has been 3 years in the making. But today we have struck a blow for working people.
Yes. Yes.
So many people deserve credit. And I want to thank, in my own administration, someone who has fought to ensure fairness and inclusion his whole career, and he's doing so much. Our Commissioner for the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, Victor Calisi. And I want to thank everyone at the TLC. Meera Joshi is not here. I hope she is somewhere getting a rest on a beach because she has worked so hard to get us to this day. But I want to thank Deputy Commissioner Bill Heidsen, who is here. Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner. The members of the council who led the way as sponsors of legislation, Council Member Steve Levin, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brother.
Council Member and Chair Ruben Diaz Sr., thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Council Member Brad Lander, thank you.
Thank you.
There are so many fighters for justice standing behind me, and I could thank each one by name, but I think everyone would agree with me that in calling out one name in particular, that she represents the aspirations and the passion of everyone else. Bhairavi Desai, thank you. And we have been talking about the human cost of this crisis, and I want to really commend Speaker Johnson because he has spoken with such humanity and such passion about those we have lost, and we honor them all today. This is one of those days where those who are no longer with us, we hope and we pray, can feel what is happening here, can know that justice was served. Well, one person is here on behalf of his family and on behalf of his brother who was lost. But I have to say, this family stood up and carried on the family name and sought justice. Let's thank Richard Chow for all he has done. Now, here's what we could see even 3 years ago. We could see that app-based cars were flooding this city, and it became increasingly clear this was part of a very cynical plan to oversaturate this city, to oversaturate this market on purpose because of corporate greed. And a number of us said, watch what's happening here and look where it's going to take us. And I'm sad to say it has taken us someplace we could not have imagined. 40% of those for-hire vehicles drive our streets empty. No one wins in that equation. Only a few big corporate titans win, but everyday people don't win. New Yorkers don't win. Drivers don't win. Customers don't win. No one else wins. And it's bad enough that our streets are clogged. What's even worse is the wages of hardworking drivers have been driven down and down and down further because of a very cynical strategy. This is part of why we have seen these horrible tragedies over the last year. And I have to tell you, it is particularly painful because, you know, for generations, being a driver was considered one of the ultimate ways to the middle class. It was a guarantee. If you worked hard, you would do well, and you could build your dream. Now, a study recently showed, and this is so painful to note, 85% of for-hire drivers making a poverty wage, not even the minimum wage for all those hard hours of toil. And in the meantime, people, literally, there are people laughing all the way to the bank. The executives, the wealthy investors, people who have made billions off the backs of working people. That is what we are standing up against today. Now, here's what's so powerful, because it is true the whole world watches New York City. And in a world where people have every reason to be cynical and every reason to wonder if their voices will ever get heard, we here in New York City today are sending a message that the voices of the people really do matter, that they can win the day, that they are where the power really resides. Here in this city, fairness is more important than profit, and we're proving it.
Yes, thank you.
So there are some powerful people who may not like what I'm about to say, but it's time for the big corporations to take a back seat, and for working people to take the wheel. So much credit goes to the City Council. They really listened, they really cared. They passed first in the nation legislation regulating this industry, the first in the nation.
Yes.
Freezing new licenses for 12 months except for accessible vehicles, creating minimum compensation for drivers, and that's going to help over 80,000 drivers and their families. So I commend and thank the City Council for doing their job and doing it so well, and now I'm about to do my job and sign these bills into law. And this is another big step for New York City, another big step toward being a city where a hard day's work earns you a fair day's pay. And another step towards being the fairest big city in America. A few words in Spanish. En la ciudad grande más justa del país, estamos poniendo a las grandes empresas en el asiento trasero y los trabajadores al volante.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
It's mejor en español, don't you think? Hoy estoy firmando las primeras leyes en la nación para regular las compañías de autos de alquiler como Uber.
Talk to me.
Con ellas aliviamos la congestión del tránsito en nuestras calles y aseguramos un pago justo por un día de trabajo duro.
Very good.
Gracias. With that.
Blasio for
Gracias. No.
B
This
plus.
is all our victory.
B plus.
B plus?
B plus.
Wow, that's very generous. B plus. I'm going to work on it. The city council really, as I said, really cared, really listened, really went out into the neighborhoods of this city and decided this was the right thing to do. They faced some very powerful opposition. And I credited Speaker Corey Johnson before. I need to do it again, because we had conversation after conversation. And there are people in this world that if multinational corporations were bearing down on them, and I dare say threatening them, they might have felt that heat. But Corey Johnson didn't flinch. He was focused on working people the whole way through. And this is a great example of leadership. Let's welcome Speaker Corey Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am really excited to be here today and excited that these bills are about to be signed into law. It was a long road to get here, but we made it, and I am so proud of all the work that went into getting to today. To start, I want to thank Mayor de Blasio for supporting these bills. I said this publicly before, but I was wrong in 2015 when I didn't support the bill that my friend Steve Levin put forward back then. And to see this through, to right a wrong, to fix these very important issues, feels like a good mulligan on my part.
You have been forgiven.
Thank you. Yes, dispensation. I want to thank Steve Levin, council member whose bill that we're signing into law today, the mayor's signing into law today, is a bill that pauses the number of licenses. And Steve has been working on this bill for over 3 years. He has seen this bill through. He was nimble and thoughtful and thorough in getting us to this point. I want to thank Brad Lander, who has been a champion for working people throughout his entire time in the city council. And today, his bill is going to give the TLC the authority to actually ensure that drivers make a living wage in New York City. I want to thank the chair of the For-Hire Vehicle Committee, Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr., who, when he came in, I believe in January, a couple of weeks into the term, he said, we're passing the Uber bills next month. And I said, Reverend, we haven't had the hearing yet. He says, don't worry about that. And his immediate goal was to try to help drivers. He immediately told me he wanted to help drivers who were suffering. He was hearing from them in his own district, in the Bronx, and he wanted to try to create some parity and fairness in regulations between the for-hire vehicle industry and the taxi industry. And so that's really what this package of bill does. It has 3 guiding principles. Number 1, create parity and fairness. If something is required of a yellow and green cab, it should be required of a for-hire vehicle, and that is what the Reverend's bill does. Number 2, we've been adding 2,000 new cars to the road every single month. So it is logical that if you stop adding 2,000 new cars to the road every single month, you may not fix congestion, but you won't exacerbate congestion. So the second guiding principle was to try to do something on congestion. And thirdly, and most importantly, I think, was to ensure that drivers could make ends meet. And Councilmember Lander's bill, as I said, ensures that after expenses, at a minimum, drivers will make $17.22 an hour to support themselves and their family moving forward. And we did this because how many people here came to New York and the United States from another country? So we are a city. We are a city, even in this crazy time in America, we are a city of dreams and aspirations. Yes, sir. We are a city that people come to start a life for themselves and for their families. Yes, sir. And to be able to do that, they need to put money in their pocket when they work hard and put food on the table for their families. And what we were seeing, and these numbers don't lie, is that 40% of app-based drivers have income so low that they currently qualify for Medicaid. Poverty. 18% of drivers right now are making so little that they qualified for food stamps because they can't put food on the table. And we are seeing this amongst all the drivers we talk to, yellow drivers and green drivers and black car drivers and Uber, Lyft, Via, and Juno drivers. All drivers have been affected by this. And so these numbers should not be merely statistics. There are human lives and a human toll that is at stake here. We have lost, tragically, heartbreakingly, 6 drivers since November of 2017. They committed suicide and took their own lives because of financial problems that they faced. And I want to say their names. Kenny Chow, Abdul Saleh, Nicanor Ochisor, Douglas Shifter, Danilo Castillo, and Alfredo Perez. These folks were struggling. They weren't able to make ends meet, and they grew despondent and ultimately took their own lives. And so today, we believe that we are doing what is right by drivers. We are doing what is right for the city of New York. And we are saying that just because you're a multi-billion-dollar company doesn't mean you shouldn't be regulated like everyone else. I also am really, really proud that our bill has, it shouldn't even be called an exemption, it should be called an incentive to put wheelchair-accessible vehicles on the road in New York City. Less than 1% of vehicles in this city are accessible to people who are in wheelchairs. My friend Edith Prentice is here. I'm so glad she is here. I see Jim Weissman, who's here. Many, many years, decades after the Americans with Disabilities Act was supposed to fix things in our country, our subway system is still inaccessible. We still don't have curb cuts across the city that we need. And the for-hire vehicle fleet is woefully inaccessible. And so today, there are so many things to be proud of in this package of bills. So many things. So I am grateful I've had the opportunity. I get to stand up here today and speak, but ultimately, I want you to know that Council Members Lander, Levin, and Diaz worked tremendously hard on these bills. And the mayor worked very hard on this as well. And lastly, I want to thank really a heroine in our city, someone who fights for justice, who I see on Twitter has organizing meetings at 3:15 a.m., talking to taxi drivers, getting off shift, and someone who really humanized this for me. I really want to thank, from the New York Taxi Workers Alliance, a stalwart champion for working people and immigrants, Bedavi Desai. So, lastly, thank you, Bedavi. Lastly, I just want to end with this. Lastly, I want to say that this is the beginning, not the end. Yes. Drivers still deserve health insurance and benefits. And Councilmember Lander and I have been working on a bill, which we will hear this fall, to create a health fund for drivers in New York City. We need to rein in predatory leasing companies in New York City, and we need to ensure that we protect all drivers. So I am incredibly grateful. I am proud of today. We are setting the standard for our country and for the world. And Mr. Mayor, I implore you to sign these bills into law. Thank you very much.
All right, I have a question, everybody. Is it time to sign these bills? Maybe you didn't hear my question. I'll repeat it. Is it time to sign these bills? I mean, if you really, really cared, you would respond passionately one more time. Is it time to sign these bills? Okay, let's do it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. We love you.
We love you, Mayor.
Yes. The best player of the walk.
Mr. Mayor, would you please call order of the father of the taxi driver from now
Mayor, I want
got the oldest driver here, right here.
Mayor, give me one.
78, sir.
You're welcome now.
You throw one in the knee.
Mr. Weir. He's very shy.
Blasio for president. Blasio for president. Go ahead, go get yours. Blasio for president.
Blasio for president.
Blasio for president.
Very good.